Good morning. So, when I had to consider my testimony for this, I first thought of the verse 1 Kings 19:12 to kind of give a general overview of what I'll be talking about. And that reads, "After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper." My earthquake probably started about 2 years ago in 2018, 3 years ago now actually. It was my junior year, and that year I experienced a lot of pain and a little bit of heartache because I had been trying for the whole spring before that to become the starter for my high school soccer team. It was an okay environment. Sometimes I felt welcome, sometimes I didn't. I couldn't really make a lot of friends there. And my coach, I just couldn't connect with her on a deeper level. But that year, I wanted that to change. So I kind of started it out learning how to pray about small things, like for the ability to have some friends on the team, sometimes for some signs, generally for help. Other times, they were just minuscule things as needed. But that kind of all changed. As I said, my deepest wish was to start, and God knew that because I talked to him about it a lot back then. But sadly, before the season got to begin, I broke my ankle. And I was kind of upset because, as I said, I told him everything I wanted, and he decided to say no, which sometimes when God says no, you don't like that. But as I've learned, that kind of sitting through the no and seeing what he has planned for the later times, probably your best bet, because he'll do some amazing things, and I'll tell you those amazing things. But when I broke my ankle, I found myself in mourning, kind of. I was always fatigued when I went to practice because my rehabilitation wasn't the best. And I worked hard. One time I missed a practice and I got in trouble, and she made me run laps. And I didn't run them right in the beginning. And then towards the end, I pretty much double did the work just because I wanted to prove something. But I never really was able to get comfortable. I never felt good. I felt like the ball of life was coming close, but as a goalie, you know, when it gets close, you think you'll save it, but it always went behind me, and I kind of felt like I was losing the game. But when the season ended, I tried to gather myself, and I tried to ask myself the questions about, what is it in a relationship with God that brings people joy? What is it that people feel and that they swear by, excuse me, that is a remedy to their pain? What is it? And so I started reading a little bit, and I actually picked up my Bible to read for fun. And I went for one of the Psalms, and it's probably not the Psalm you're thinking. You might think I'll bring up Psalm 23 or Psalm 139, but actually it was Psalm 18, and it was just because the title really, really got me. It was, and it is, a royal thanksgiving for victory. And it has a lot of gems. Of course, it's just the first verses, which are, "I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God, my rock in whom I take refuge. My shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold." And that's just 1 through 2. But the one that always got me was verse 6. Oh wait, no, not verse 6, sorry. Oh gosh, where is it? I'll just read it from here. Sorry, my bad. "This God, his way is perfect. The promise of the Lord proves true. He is a shield for all who take refuge in him." I also started to get into hymns. My favorite hymn was "What a Friend We Have in Jesus." And at night, too, I would start praying. It was morning and evening that I would pray. But I would pray for little things, little acts of faith, if you will, like you know, please, Lord, let the sun come out in the morning so I can see your glory and praise you. And I also found other contemporary music, some that we've played in church I've known before, others, particularly Lauren Daigle, I'm sure you've heard of her. But all this was just the lead up to the big moment that I met the Lord, and he stuck with me. And that was on June 5th, 2019. Because on June 5th, I had the pleasure of having God speak to me. And this is the origin story of what my best friend at Pitt, Maya, calls Rachel's two-way line. And it's something she always is quite passionate about, saying, dang, Rachel, I wish I had your two-way line. I wish I had it. And I have quite a few stories to tell you about it, but the one that I chose, well, technically there's two. But I'll precursor it by just telling you about the voice of God, the voice of the advocate. First, that his voice is a loud whisper. It's a quiet call. And it's kind of a silent movement in your heart, in my heart. Sometimes it moves kind of through me, maybe through my blood or deep into my bones. It just feels like something very peaceful. And it kind of leaves and comes like a wind. But it's not a whipping wind. It's actually, it descends like a cloud. And I said this earlier this morning, that it reminds me of the verses in the Old Testament where Isaiah goes into the temple and it fills with the glory of the Lord, the big cloud, and it's bright and it's beautiful. And the first time I heard that voice was prior to June 5th, actually. It was maybe around my freshman year. I was at my cousin's wedding, and it's still in those teenage times, you know, where you're unsettled and frankly you don't feel God's love because you don't pay attention to it. But if you try and you don't find it, you get a little down in the dumps, kind of. But at that particular moment, I'm pretty sure he knew what I was thinking. And right down to my last thought as they started playing a hymn before the service started, I got to see that glorious light. It filled the chapel that we were in. And I heard that whisper that his love was there, and it was moving into my heart. It was deep, it was immeasurable, and it quietly changed my life. I had tears streaming down my face, and I was trying to hide it, pretending like, you know, I'm crying because it's a wedding, but I wasn't. Because it was just that whisper, all God's gentleness, all his glory, that was so quiet that only I could hear it. And it, you know, as I said, went with the wind. It was in one distilled moment that felt like an hour condensed into a second. And after that, it came when I was most vulnerable, like in high school when I wanted to live somewhere else, to be someone else, or sometimes if I had a writer's block, because I am a writer, I would get very mad. And so I wanted to be able to be such a good writer that I never had those. And I also wanted to, of course, just be motivated and confident and find my own group of friends and feel like I was in a good place. So you can imagine that if God called out to me like that at a wedding, June 5th would be just as important. But actually, that little wedding incident was kind of like the fire. Even though his voice technically was there, the gentle whisper came to me on June 5th when I decided to start my devotional life. And after that, everything changed, because For one, on that day when I decided to pick up my Bible and really delve deep into it and to pray deeper, and to challenge myself to find that deep relationship with God, one, he called me here to you, and then two, he called me to follow him, and three, he promised me that he was going to be walking with me forever. And it's funny, the sun was shining on that day. Just a little tidbit I wanted to add. But after that, I felt always this carried power of being reassured by the Lord. And he showed up and showed out for me, as my aunt would say. Whenever I prayed for friends, he called me to move here. And the first week that I moved here, I made about a whole team load of friends, because when I prayed to find my way out of that bad team scenario, it was kind of a Job moment. God said that he was going to give me twofold of what I had before. And I started for the Highlands Lady Rams, and I had a coach who was good to me, and I didn't get injured, and we went to the playoffs. And all of that and more, which some of them are recent scenarios, like this week, I went through a brief breakdown period because I had a paper to write, and that paper was not finished on the due date, and I hadn't written anything. And I walked out of that moment in tears, and I said, Lord, I'm just asking for some comfort. And about an hour later, I got an email from my professor that said, sounds like you need an extension. And he also told me exactly how to structure my paper. And after little moments like that, I know for certain that God is always listening and that he's always present. And there are many more of those moments that I've experienced just 2 days, in the last 2 days alone. But that is solid evidence to me of what we have heard in our sermons for the past month, I would say. The quote that is, ours is a God who brings life out of death. And I can say truly, I have never understood that statement more. And when I heard it, I wrote it on my arm, because that's what I do during the sermons. I write in pen on my arms. I will say it in strength that statement feels personal to me, because I felt like I was dead before I trusted in the Lord. And he brought life, breathed life into me, still does every day, still is right now. He swells in me like the waves of the sea. And I have never known this love that is so deep and passionate that, he sees my fears, and he sees my stumbling, and all of the bad things I've done, and he still chooses to patiently love me and give me more than I could have ever imagined. And I've never felt more compelled to believe in him because of that. And so, I hope that in some ways I have brought to you the voice of the Lord. But of course, it's something I want you to, even for just 10 minutes today, any chance you get, just sit down and pray to hear that whisper, and then listen for it, and let it change you. Because I say it in my final line that truly it works wonders. It changes tides, and as we've heard in the Bible, it lights up the darkness. Thank you.